your story, and your brand. Now, I decided that I want to stay with me for a moment because there's a direct correlation between the brand that you're building, the story that you have. We are a few minutes behind because of some exciting technology, but now that we've gotten our act together and our lives together, this is going to be good. Stay with me because there's this idea that, man, should I or should not be focused on building a brand? I can't really tell you whether or not you should be focused on building a brand, but I do want to hyper tell you that you have to absolutely be focused on telling your story. So inside of dothedamnthingnation.com, I'm going to be giving Do the Damn Thing Nation. Yes, dothedamnthingnation.com. I'm going to be giving feedback on stories today. If you get to view this on some other platform, I want to say, as much as I would love, love, love to share it with you there, I have to be true to what I promised and only to those who are intentionally participating in what's called the center stage. Somewhere here is a link for you to register. Now, here's what's cool. Okay, stay with me. So your brand, right? You want to build this business, you want to make money, you want to do some things, but what you haven't considered is the fact that you actually need to have the right ingredients, and you need to have the right ingredients so that you have the right outcome. Because if you don't have the right ingredients, but you just gather a bunch of your own ingredients, and you won't have the right outcome. If you don't have the right outcome, then we don't know what we're really doing in business. And if we don't have the right outcome, then we're frustrated, we're angry, we're pissed off, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, it's so funny as I'm looking at this microphone, I'm like, this just looks like, let's stay with me. We got to change this for a moment. What's true is that I love to drink tea in the morning. Now, if you like to drink tea, I'm going to ask you really quickly, if you're watching this live or replay, to put the word tea in the chat, or tea for me. I love to drink tea. Now, for years and ever, I've been drinking tea in some type of way, but it consists of some type of hot water, and it consists of some form of a herb, a bush that I cut, a tea bag, or whatever it might be, okay? Now, stay with me. Right here, I have a cup of tea. Now, if you are, let me make sure that I have the right thing. Yeah, tea is for me, for sure. Okay, so what's real is that I have this cup of tea. This tea is amazing. Now, not only is this tea amazing, it's in a Starbucks cup, one of those plastics that says Mary for coffee. There's a tea bag in here. But what's also important about this, okay, now stay with me because we're approaching day 2 of the center stage. And this is a really important lesson. Whether you're watching this months or years later, this is going to be vital. And I promise you, you don't want to miss it because it's going to be everything. It's the difference between you making $100,000 and $250,000, $250,000 versus $742,000, like 100%. Now, in here, I have a cup of tea. Couple of things. Now, before, way back in the day, I used to make tea. I used to either cut a bush, then I evolved, right? And I got a tea bag. I put in some hot water. You can see there's some hot water here. And I would get some sugar, and it would be great. And I'd be like, hip, hip, hooray. I've got tea, everybody. But here's what's really true. I had tea, but I was just drinking something that was okay. Now, this tastes nothing like what I had when I was younger. Now, here's what's important about this. This cup is not necessarily pretty. Yes, it's name branded. Yes, we recognize it, but out of the gate, it's not pretty. This container that the tea is in is just okay. If I were drinking tea for myself at home and no one saw me, it'd be all right. But imagine if every person who walked by and they saw Tiffany Largie or they connected with me, and one of the elements that they used to judge me was on all the pieces that they saw right here. This, number one, is not really pretty. And more importantly, it's like, Tiffany, does my brand have to be pretty? Does my story have to be pretty? No. I need to be really clear on what container I'm holding. So this is where you put your story in. Wherever you put your story distribution, wherever you put your quantifiable wins, whatever you use to say to the market, hey, I'm really great. You should be hiring me. You should work with me. You want to do business with me. Whatever it is that you're using to do that is dictated, and you get paid on, and you get to charge more dollars based on the container that it's in. I'm going to ask you really quickly in the chat if you can just entertain me. If you're catching this and you're not paying for this, I'm going to ask you to entertain me by putting the container matters. The container matters. The most overlooked thing that I see when I have amazing business owners who come from around the world, and they either come to our live event or they're coming to our live event, they're hiring us to help them with their company, with their sales, their team, their marketing. And they're like, hey, Tiffany, we have all these great products and services. We have all these great things. And I'm like, great, I'm happy you have all these great things, but what kind of container are you presenting your products and services to the market in? Your container matters. I'm going to ask you to really consider this. This is really important. Yesterday, we completed day 1 of the center stage, and today we're in the belly of day 2, and that happens tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you don't know, now you know. And I invite you to come. It's 100% free. It's where I'm teaching the essence of how do you take your story, build a brand. How do you build a brand to build a movement? How do you build a movement to have consistent sales dollars? How do you use a movement to then change your life and the world and everybody that you love? Now, in this container, stay with me, okay? There's 2 really stupidly important lessons that I'm like, oh my gosh, sweet Jesus, I gotta make sure you get them because they're absolute money. Now, inside of this cup of tea is amazing. This cup of tea is amazing. Now, first thing I want you to know is that I used to make tea a certain way, but then I have my sister, my best friend, who's my sister. One day she looked at me, no BS, about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3. And she said, hey, I heard you coughing. I heard you sneeze or something. And she was like, listen, girl, stop playing around. You need to get better tea. And I was like, girl, I drink tea all the time. And she was like, yeah, but you fooling around in how you make tea. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, give me a tea bag. I'll add some sugar. Good to go. She said to me, no, that is not how you make a perfect cup of tea. And I looked at her like she was stupid. I was like, are you kidding me? I've made more tea. Basically, I was like, I've made more tea than you have, such and such and such. But she said something important. She said, yeah, you've made tea before because you weren't making tea on purpose. And I was like, what? But then she turned around, went to the kitchen, and she made me a cup of tea. Now, inside of here is the actual ingredients of what she gave me, what she made for me. Here's what's crazy. The reason why you need expertise, you need a coach, you need to be following or connecting to somebody as you're trying to build whatever it is you're trying to do is specifically because you don't want to make the wrong cup. Yes, I've been drinking tea for a long time. Yes, I've been drinking tea for a long time. And yes, for sure, I have been grateful for the opportunity to make tea. But I tell you what, getting a certain set of ingredients in a certain way allows for me to indulge in a cup of tea that's so deliciously exciting that every time when I consume it, I'm changed, which means it has the impact that I intended for it to have. Now, inside of this is not just tea and sugar, okay? Not just tea and sugar. Inside of this, let me team members who are waiting for me, and they're like, where are you and what are you doing? So inside of this, there is this cup of tea. And she taught me to take water, turmeric and ginger, organic, in a tea bag, apple cider vinegar. I know, isn't that crazy? And then honey. And I said to myself, are you kidding me? I hate apple cider vinegar. Are you kidding me? I don't like that thing. I don't enjoy that. Honey, I don't like honey in my tea. But what was important is that I didn't need to understand the individual ingredients that were going in. I just needed to trust the expert. I also needed to make a decision to understand that I couldn't just put any old ingredients. I had to put quality ingredients into my container. The number one problem with people who don't have consistent sales, consistent team members, a consistent brand, a consistent messaging into the market, a consistent people knocking on their doors because they don't have the right ingredients. They have a bunch of ingredients that they've gathered from a bunch of supposed gurus and a bunch of supposed people to do a bunch of supposed things, but the outcome is that they just get a cup of tea that they can drink. It's like, man, once I got this formula, I didn't turn back. Now stay with me. Ingredients matter. I'm going to ask you to plug that in the chat for me. I need the right ingredients in the chat. If you haven't liked this training, please indulge me and let me know that I'm not useless. And like this chat so that we let social media, whether it's Facebook or the next person, know Tiffany once in a while has something decent to say, because here's what comes next. So in order to maintain cash that sustains itself and that continues and allows you to build over and over again, we need this. So what she doesn't do is she never brings me a cup of tea like this. She never brings it to me in this type of a container. What she does is she always does this. Whenever I'm with her, she goes out of her way to make sure that the cup that she's giving me the tea in is right. And when she brings me a cup of tea in a container like this, I'm so excited. When she brings me tea in a cup in a container that's like this, I feel so alive. The warmth of it, the holding, anybody else understand what I'm talking about? The holding of a big, delicious mug that's so comfortable, the heat that's coming outside, the way this whole thing feels, like I'm thrilled about it. And more importantly, I feel excited, I feel ready. The way the container looks will change the feel or the perception for your customers and how they're receiving the products and services that you sell. It's how they're receiving you. For the person who says, no, we don't judge a book by their covers, liars. We always judge a book by their covers. And not only do we always judge book by their covers, but we judge book by their covers and then we make a decision. You cannot just settle for, let me have a container. Then you can't just settle for having a supposed container. You need to provide an experience. Every single part of what you do for your products and services or the customers that you serve needs to be rooted in an experience for them and an experience for you. Because this is how you create long lasting. When telling your story, it's important that you give your story in 3 sentences and 3 sentences only. The DTDT way is to nail telling our story in 3 sentences and 3 sentences only, specifically because I know for a fact that if you tell your story and you tell your story in 3 sentences, you're going to make it absolutely delicious to the market, and then they want more. All I had to do was take a sip for the first time and go, I don't even like those ingredients, but man, it made the perfect cup of tea. But now I'm leaned in, I'm excited, and I want more. Making more money in your company and having your team, or whether it's just you, sell more products and services is not about more strategy and tactics. It's about having the right container, which everybody can control right now, and it's about pouring in the right ingredients. Because if you have the right ingredients, I'm anticipating the sale. I'm anticipating to say yes. I'm anticipating the next move. I'm anticipating what happens. I'm anticipating. You want to make sure that people are anticipating what happens next. And more importantly, they're anticipating the next move. All of it comes from a container, but the root of it is in your story. If today you've stumbled upon this and you're like, I don't even know what the hell she's talking about, but somehow, whether it's her nails or the watch, or you're like, I just like this cup, and you're like, I need help telling my story. I'm sure somewhere here or close by is a link for you to learn how to come closer. There is no one better in the market to teach you how to tell your story than DTDT Nation. There is no one better to tell you not how to tell a story. I'll leave that for my gurus. I'll leave that for my peers who are focused on telling the world that they need to find an isolated story, tell an isolated piece of their story, and then for the isolated piece of their story, they can then woo the market. That is not what I'm here to do at all. I am 100% focused on you mastering telling your whole story, all parts of it, but in 3 sentences. 3 sentences, the whole thing. If you haven't mastered doing that, and your story is not the key core part of your business, and you keep tripping and trying to make money and trying to figure it out, and you feel like you've been doing it forever and a day, and you're tired, if you're finally tired and you're finally exhausted, I'm going to ask you to lean in. Whatever step or link is here is an opportunity for you to lean in. And if not, send our team an email, stalk us on social media, send us a DM. The one thing's for sure. The moment you master telling your story, having the right container and the right ingredients, the magic of life opens up. All the excitement that you've been waiting for becomes closer. And at the end of it, you get to make the movement and the impact that you've been waiting to make forever. All right. So here is the homework for now. If you're inside of DTDT Nation, I'm going to ask you in this thread to begin to give me your 3 sentences on telling your story. Yes, absolutely. But throughout the end of the day, you're going to get feedback from myself and our team, and it's going to be so exciting. But more importantly, for me, it's going to be an opportunity for you to walk through your beginning, your people, place, and setting, the middle of your story, the problems, obstacles, and challenges that you've had. And more importantly, 3 for me, your quantifiable wins. The number one thing that the world needs to know is what makes you great. It's your quantifiable wins, not just your wins, your quantifiable wins at the end. And everybody has a minimum of 3, I promise. Here's what's exciting. I've loved spending this time with you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions around how the hell do I tell my story and what's next. If you're like, Tiffany, I don't know who the hell you are or how I stumbled upon you, send a note to tiffany@tiffanylargie.com. If nothing else, make sure you tune in for whatever happens next. It's been my honor to be a part of your world and you telling your story, and I can't wait to meet you. I love you. Bye.